Hello everyone and welcome to episode 15 of The Power of Books. My name is Timo Jübner, I'm the founder of Timo's Notes, and in this show I interview popular non-fiction authors about their best-selling books. The goal of the show is to introduce you to new books and to provide you with actionable advice and tools to live a better life. My guest today is Steve Sims. Steve is the founder of the world's leading experiential concierge firm, Bluefish. He utilized his talent for making things happen to provide some of the most unique experiences to his clients. For example, he once had a group get a tour of SpaceX led by Elon Musk himself, or another time he made it possible for a client to take a submarine trip to the Titanic. In his book Go for Stupid, Steve shares his blueprint for achieving ridiculous goals alongside a ton of other valuable lessons related to networking, branding, and overall success. From our conversation today, you can expect to learn about the 3 key principles for success that Steve learned from some of the wealthiest people alive. So now let's get right into our conversation. Enjoy the show. Steve Sims, welcome to the Power of Books podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today and talk about your book, Go for Stupid.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So on the first page of the book, you say that your superpower is that you don't care if people are laughing at you. And I think that's so cool. Did that come natural to you, or how did that evolve?
I don't want to start the podcast with a contradiction or an argument, but it's not a case of not caring. It's a case of not hearing. There's a big difference. Sadly, I care about what people think, how they move, how they impact. I shouldn't a lot of the time, but you do care. You can't do what you do to create impact without caring. But I don't listen to those people that don't matter. And so my superpower was that ignorance. And I think that stems from being a kid who just wanted to go for things. Hey, let's do it. And if you think about children, do you have any children?
No, I don't.
Right. Okay. So a lot of parents will know this and certainly recognize this. When the kids are like 5 years old and they want a lollipop and it's like 2 minutes away from dinner, they're like, I want a lollipop. And you go, but you can't have a lollipop. It's dinner. That's not a good enough answer for them. They keep going. They know, but I want a lollipop. Give me a lollipop. I fancy a lollipop. And so they keep going until the person gets worn down and they don't hear the objections. I think for me, my superpower at the time was I was audibly blinkered. I couldn't hear all of those people laughing at us in a society where a lot of people laugh for no reason.
That's totally right. Yeah, and that's interesting because you say you hear the voices, but you just don't listen to them, basically. Because I wanted to ask, I would consider myself someone who cares a little too much about what other people think. So what would be your advice for me? Like, just basically block out the noise?
It's funny because I love the noise. For a start, don't get me wrong, I love the noise. If like I've got really good friends who are very successful, and if they're jeering at me, if they're challenging me, if they're saying things, I want to listen because they are credible, that I respect them, I love them. And if they're saying, hey, Steve, that marketing thing you did, or that book you did, or that podcast you did, that kind of sucked. If they say that, I want to, why? I respect your opinion. I trust your opinion. What can I do to be better? And I listen to them. But have you ever noticed that 85% of people that are laughing at you can't afford you? And so, you're trying to conform to people that you'll never do business with. So listen to those people that can actually sharpen your tools. Listen to those people that can actually make you better. So I don't say don't listen. I just say be selective. Those people that want to throw hate at you, a friend of mine once said to me, be so successful that you get haters. You're going to get them, all right? So listen to those people that actually matter.
That's a great point, yeah. Because most advice or most opinions don't matter. So yeah, that's true.
No, they don't.
To get into some of the other stuff that you share in the book, I want to ask you a question that you've asked dozens of people. how come that you're successful and so many people are not?
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know where that statement comes from, as a lad growing up in East London, I had no money. So I knew what it was like to be poor, and it sucked. Everyone knows that. So I went out to try and find out. And of course, when you're young, when you're a kid, when you're 16, 17 years old, you look at success as just having money. Everything is money related. And so I used to go up to very wealthy people and I'd be like, hey, how come you're rich and I'm not? And of course, that's not a very, very good question, because people, again, look at rich as a financial. Well, this is how much I got in my bank account. These are my assets. That's how much I got, So then I used to tweak the question to, how come you're wealthy and I'm not? And that's a much better question. But people would tell me things like, well, I met my wife and I had kids and I found religion and I found this church. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to marry your wife and go to that church, so that doesn't help me. So my final adaptation of that question was, how come you're successful and I'm not? And I would always put it on me. How come you're this and I'm not? I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll work 28 hours a day. How come you're good and I'm not? And that was the kind of almost passion, but also aggression that I had in me and the aggravation I had. And luckily I got people answering. And they used to tell me how they looked at hiring people, how they looked at opportunities, how they recognized opportunities, how they learned to say yes to everything while still being able to say no to everything, how they learned. And I'm sitting there going, I'm getting all of this information. Now, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but what kind of moron gets this kind of information from the most powerful, impactful people in the planet and then gets off the chair and walks out the door and does nothing with it? So that was never me. I would literally, and sometimes I would go to the toilet, and I remember years back, it started off when I had a little Palm Pilot. Before the Palm Pilot, it was literally just a pad and pen. I would go to the toilet and make loads of little notes, and then quickly go back to the table, and then go to the toilet again and make some more notes. It was terrible. And then sometimes I would get the phone and I would stick the phone when these beautiful things called smartphones came out. I'd put the phone on the table and I'd push record, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to miss a thing. But that gets people uncomfortable. When they know that conversations being recorded, you don't get the conversation. So I used to have to remember it and then run around the corner after the drinks or the coffee or the lunch and quickly make loads of notes. But I always used to gather that information and realized that how you do something is an action. And if any of you want to be slimmer, if any of you want to be richer, if any of you want to be smarter, then you don't go out and get smart. You go out and do something to become smart, and then the byproduct of your actions is the reaction that you're now smart. If you operate what you've been taught in a diet book, then the reaction is you get slimmer. If you action healthier options in your life, then the reaction is you become. So I realized that if I wanted money in my bank account, don't stare at it, start on the action. And that will just come.
That's such a good point. And one thing that I found so interesting is when you just said that when you talk to those successful people, you took so many notes because you didn't want to waste anything and you didn't want to ask something, get a response, and then not act on it. And I feel like today there's so much information out there that it seems like most people actually take it for granted. Like what you had to personally, you had to get to the people, ask them the question, and then do something with it. And today you can get it at the click of a mouse button in a second. And that's why probably most people don't really take it anymore. Or what do you think? Why so many people, they read about it, hear about it, but they never do anything with it?
Because there's so much noise, people think that everything they hear is truthful. You see, the internet has made a lot of stupid people get stupider. So you've really got to focus on what moves the needle. You see, I'm selfish and I'm 56 years old. And I guarantee you, every year comes along, I get more selfish. I'm selfish with my time. I'm selfish with my energy. I'm selfish with my attention. And if it doesn't move the needle, why am I doing it? And you've got to focus on that. I wish I'd learned that skill 30 years ago of being selfish. There were far too many years of my life where I tried to please people. Now I don't give a shit. You know, if I can help you and you want to be helped, hey, let's go for it. But I'm not going to spit wisdom at you for you to do nothing with it because you think you can download a manual on it that afternoon off of Google. So I really focus on the power of impact. What can I do and gain from the person I'm speaking with that's going to create impact with me and those people that I'm working with? So I think people need to start getting a little bit more selfish. I think people need to start looking at kind of what moves the needle and focusing their attention on that information, not all the information.
When you try to be more selfish, so someone who's young like me, I'm 24 and I'm still in that, I want to please people and everything. How do you be more selfish without being a dick?
You don't, I think is the easy answer to that. I got a lot of people out there that probably do think I'm a dick because I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to attract them. I don't want to be in a conversation with them. I had a cousin at a Christmas party, I think 5 years ago, was starting a new business. I said, so, okay, what business you in? Oh, I'm doing this. I said, well, okay, let's enjoy the Christmas. But then a month from now, let's have a phone call and let's go through your marketing and your strategy and your avatars and your call to actions. And let's go through that so we can make sure it's good. And I've been doing this for 25 plus years and I've spoken on stages all over the planet. I kind of know my shit. And so he had the call with me. And so we went through everything. We recorded the call. Then I got one of my team to actually put it into a digestible manual for him to actually action on it. And I reached out to him. I think it was maybe like 8 months after that, which gave him all the time. How's it going? Yeah. I must get around to that. And I'm like, what do you mean you must get around to it? You had me converse with you for nearly an hour and a half. Then you had my team actually put it to you in action steps. None of that was charged for. And 8 months later, you've still done fuck all with it. And so then I said to him, you got to do it. And so I prodded the buttons with him. And then I met up with him at Christmas and he'd done nothing. So I left it alone. The following year, nothing. Last year, just coming out of COVID, he said, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I get back? And I said, no. We'll meet up at Christmas. We'll drink, we'll tell inappropriate jokes. But no, you can't pick my brain because when you do shit with it. So he may well think I'm a dick, but I'm a great protector to my effort and energy. And so you will get people that are just naturally dicks that are therefore going to reflect on you that you're the dick for not helping them out. But there are people out there that just don't deserve it. Simple as that.
That's so interesting, yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because, as you said, if the person doesn't even take what you say and does something with it, then you're not, you don't have to help them or anything because it doesn't change anything either way.
I love impact. I love working with people and seeing it benefit them. I love it when it benefits them because it never benefits them. This is a funny thing to say. If you work with a business, whether it be on marketing, media, speaking, whatever, if you work with an influencer, a brand, it never just affects them. They do well, which means their team does well, which means their environment does well, which means their environment's kids do well. It's such a bleed rate. It's beautiful. It never just impacts the one person creating impact.
That's right, yeah. And when you ask these people the questions, you mentioned in the book 3 key things that you learned from it. And one of it you already mentioned, which is curiosity. And that's so interesting because you say it like you're like a 5-year-old, but in a 50-something-year-old body, and that's so cool because we all are so dull these days. Do you have any tips like how can people spark their curiosity again and start asking more questions again?
Well, wow, that's actually a deeper question than you realize. at the moment, we outsource our creativity. You know, we outsource our stimulation, whether it be, you know, on YouTube Shorts or on Reels. You see, every platform we've got now has microcosms of content that you can saturate yourself with. The problem with that is it's training our mind that if we don't get the answer in that 60 seconds, I'm bored. Okay? So our ADHD is growing at an exponential rate. We've got to be the ones that satisfy that curiosity. We've got to be the ones that actually saturate ourselves with the appropriate content. And I think you have to be curious. Now, here's the daft thing. A lot of people, like, this is a book show, okay? A lot of people will read great books to motivate, to invigorate, to educate themselves, okay? How many of us are going to read story and fantasy books? Now, here's what I like to do. This is my tip, okay? I love to read 2 business books, which, if they are good, will piss me off. Because there's nothing better than reading a book and you just going, oh my God, why aren't I doing that? You know, why did I miss it? It's so simple, I'm going to do that. So a good business book will aggravate you into taking action. I'm hoping Go for Stupid will aggravate people to go and take action. But it causes you to do something. And that's the action. That's brilliant. That's great. But it doesn't cause you to dream. Now, I love reading fantasy books. I love reading spy novels. I like reading whodunits. Because that gets the neurons going, oh, was it the butler? Oh, hang on a minute. Is this actually in 1923? You know, just anything that can get your mind just kind of like suddenly starting to dream is important. Because we're good at taking impact. We're good at actually strategizing. But the real people that we idolize today, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, the Larry Page, the Elon Musks, they're dreamers. Yeah. And you've got to read books that teach you to dream. And when you learn to dream, you become curious. How does that work? How does this work? You know, I had a MacBook computer the other day, and it was dead. You know, I'm on a new MacBook now, but my old one had just died. It literally was starting to crack at the seams. It was you know, vintage thing, and it was my workhorse. Wherever I traveled, this thing would come. I don't know how many airports that's fallen down the stairs at, you know, and it would still work. It was exceptional how strong this thing was. But when it finally died, I said to my 17-year-old son, he said, oh, are you going to get a new MacBook? And the new MacBook, he said, oh, should I throw the other one in the bin? And I said, not before you've pulled it apart. And he said, what do you mean? I said, let's get the screwdrivers. Let's undo that baby. And he's like, why? And I said, you never want to ask why. You want to ask how. I want to know what's in there. You know, and so we took this entire computer apart just to see. Now, do you think I could build a MacBook? No. But I now know what the inside of one of those things look like. And it's an engineering feat how it can actually all be fitted into that. So I think we need to stay curious. And that curiosity is going to do something for you. Because how many people out there go, oh, you know, I wish I could do that. Oh, I wish I could be better here. I wish I could have more income. I wish I could get better clients. I wish I could do better marketing. Now, wishing is a shit strategy. But if you just change it and you go, why can't I get better clients? That creeps in curiosity. Why can't I do better marketing? Why don't I have $1 million liquid in the account? Why isn't it me that's doing that? Now, when that happens, your brain cells go, whoa, okay, we're questioning things now. We're curious. Let's search for the answer. And when you start training that muscle, do you know what happens? It gives it back to you. So when you start training it, you actually start recognizing opportunity. More people today need to be curious, you need to dream, and you need to lose yourself in good stories.
I have never looked at it this way, especially with reading fiction, you know. Sometimes people are like, well, it's kind of a waste of time because you're not learning anything. But as you said, it's about having the dreams, the big vision. And Elon Musk is known to be a huge science fiction fan. Like, that's why he wants to go to space, because he's read all these books when he was a child. So that's so cool. And thanks for these tips. Like, I love the story when you took apart the MacBook, because when do you ever get the chance to do that? You wouldn't want to try that with your functioning one, because afterwards it won't work anymore.
I was working on, I've got loads of motorbikes. I ride all the time. And this last weekend, I was messing around on motorbikes, and you probably can't see it, but I'm all cut up and all bruised and all this. And you shouldn't be that damaged on working on a motorcycle, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But I was so curious, I thought, how the hell does that work? So I stripped one of the engines apart, and I've got trouble today putting it back together again, but that's what mechanics are for. You can employ someone to go and fix it. But I've now grown a little bit more because I know how to take it apart. He's going to teach me how to put it back together again, and now I'll be educated.
I love that, yeah. Now, the second thing, or one more thing that you talk about, is relationships. That's also a huge key to success. And you've done an amazing job of building relationships with a lot of very successful people. And what is your, like, how do you, when you don't have anyone in your network who's that successful or anything, how do you get to someone? Like, because a lot of people, they would love to talk one-on-one to someone who's successful, but where can they find them? How can they contact them? What's your advice?
I think what you've got to do, first of all, before you contact anyone, you've got to ask yourself why. Now, I find why seems to be the most confrontational word in the human language today. And it's a shame, because it's also, I believe, one of the most beneficial. And if someone contacts me and they go, hey, I want to pick your brain. Why? Hey, I want to take you out for drinks. Why? Hey, can we get together? Why? I want to know why. And then based on that information, I can make an educated decision on to whether or not it'll work for me. Hey, this is great, but it's not what I do. So why don't we have you introduced to Johnny? So you've first of all got to ask yourself why. But importantly, you've got to ask what you want out of it. Why you for them? Now, this is a bit of a complex one here. So let's say, for argument's sake, I want to get in touch with you. And I don't know who you are. I can't get hold of you. You're not my friend, but I want to get in touch with you, okay? I look up your social channels. I look up your Facebook. I look up your Twitter. So I've got loads of ways. I can even Google where you live. I've got loads of ways to get hold of you, but no reason to connect with you. And that's the missing link today. I can reach out to you. I guarantee you I can talk to you. But what's the point for you? Now, I may want to be on your show. I may want you to promote my book. But that's all selfish. That's all me. How can I make it worthwhile for you? So you've got to think of that first. Okay, I want to get a hold of Elon Musk. I want to get a hold of, Steve Sims. How can I make it worthwhile for them to talk to me? Now, a lot of people, I had this ages ago. I bought a new house, and it was a horrible house, and I had some construction done on it. And this guy reached out to me. He said, hey, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay, why? I've already said that's what I do. And he explained to me what he wanted. And I said, well, okay, then. But, I'm really busy at the moment. I said, so we're going to have to look at this in like 6 months' time. And he turned around on the next thing, because I was literally just kind of pushing him off. It was a fair request he had. It may have been some business to me. I'd have made money out of it. But, it wasn't as important to me at the moment because I was focusing on the remodeling of my house. And he contacted me. He said, I own a cleaning company. You're going to move back into that house and it's going to be dusty because of the construction. I want to get my team up there to thoroughly clean your house before you move in. Now, I didn't know that service even existed. I thought you just, had to suffer and clean it yourself kind of thing. I knew you had cleaning companies, but when you've done construction, there's so many different kinds of particles and dust. Not a normal cleaner can do it. You need people that specialize in commercial grade cleaning. I didn't know anything about that because I'd never needed any commercial grade cleaning done before. So he now went to me, now I could have paid for that. And if I'd have known the service existed, I'd have probably already pre-booked it. But this was something I wasn't aware of. There was a massive benefit to me. And so I said to him, I need that. I didn't realize I needed it, but I need that. And he went, that'll be up there next Thursday. And he saw it. And I think I saw him, I got together with him, I think the following Monday. Because now there was a benefit for me. And so I naturally felt compelled to do something for him. Now, I paid for his service, but I was so impressed that he had actually solved my problem that I didn't know I had, that I was now compelled to do something. So it didn't cost a lot of money. And again, I didn't get it for free, so he wasn't out of pocket, but it compelled me. So you've got to think, hey, I can reach out to these people, but before I do, what can I do for them? If someone wanted to get hold of you, for argument's sake, and ask you some questions, if they said to you, hey, I know you've got the Power of Books podcast, I've got an audience, I've got social, I would like to promote your podcast to all of my viewers, would that be of interest to you? What are you going to say? No? So there's a benefit for you. So you've always got to ask yourself, what is the benefit I can bring them?
Yeah, and you mentioned that question too in the book, and I really loved it because you tell the story that it doesn't really come natural to men. We usually ask the wrong questions, but women usually ask, what can I bring to the party? And that question is so cool. I love that. I love the story you shared about that too. So once, let's say that you've crossed the step of contacting someone, or now it's about, maintaining relationships, because that's also something that you're really great at, and you share a lot of stories in the book. Now you say you've always wondered why people would go golfing together and like having lunch and stuff like that, because you thought it's a waste of time, but then you realize that, it's for relationship building. Now, can you overdo that? Like, can you put too much relationship building on your table, like having lunches every day, meeting a ton of people every day? Or would you say that it's so important that you should make that a priority, like all the time?
It's a priority until you've got it. So let's say, for argument's sake, you need a good website designer, or you need a good gardener, or you need a good mechanic. You'll search and search and search and search until you've got the right one. And if you've got one doing the work, maybe they're fixing it for you, but you're not too enthralled, so you'll keep searching. That's the exact same thing with relationships. How many relationships can you handle? How many relationships do you want? So again, this comes back to the selfish side. What do I need done? If I need people in this category, in this department, in this sandpit, then I will do all of the lunches, the cocktail receptions, the nights out. I'll do all I need to do to get the people I need to fill the places I need filled. Once it's done, you don't have to do it anymore. So you've got to ask yourself, first of all, is everyone around you suitable for the position they hold? Okay? This is a very important thing. Is everyone in your life suitable for what they do to you? Are they creating impact? Are they solving problems? Are they doing your accounting, your finance, your branding? Are they suitable? And then this is the next question, which is going to hurt. Could you get better? And that's the key. If you think you're shit hot, if you think you're brilliant, if you think you are the best there is your team the best? And that's usually where it goes wrong. That's usually we all know the old saying, hey, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If everyone that works for you are arseholes, what do you think you are? So you've got to focus. Do you have the A-team? Do you have the Navy SEALs? Do you have that real A-list people around you, making sure that you are as brilliant and as best as you can possibly be? If you don't, get rid of the suitables and replace them with the betters. And in that case, you've got to start working on those relationships. You've got to do the lunches. You've got to do the receptions. You've got to get people that fit the same character, values, and culture of you, that are superior at certain things than you to be able to complement you. It's all about you.
So if you have someone in your team, let's say, who's not at the level where you want them to be, would you, or do you rather, help them develop to that level, or rather get someone new?
Can they develop? Can they grow? 9 times out of 10, the biggest problem in your relationship and your business is you. We all know that. Okay. So look around to these people and ask yourself, are they pushing themselves, or are they just doing what I ask them to do? I want people to push me. I want people to challenge my businesses. So in which case they need to grow. They need to be the kind of people that won't come to me going, Steve, we've got a problem here. I want to go, okay, do you have any solutions? And those are the kind of people. So maybe you're suppressing them. Okay, let them go and say to them, hey, if you had to start this job today and you hadn't worked with me for this amount of time, what would you do differently in the position you're in today? What would you want from the position you've got today? And what can you bring to the table? Now, if they sit there, well, if I started today, I'd want an extra $10,000 a year. Well, are you worth 50? If someone wants 10 grand, but can only give you 10 grand, then that's a zero gain. Okay. Don't employ him. But if someone can actually bring immense value to your company, far exceeding what you're actually paying them, and of course with bonuses, hey, you're looking after them, but you've got to be selfish to the end goal. It's got to benefit you more than anyone else. Otherwise you become a charity.
Wow, there were so many points that I gotta think about, in my business and in my life, where I can kind of level up the team. And as you said, the main lever is always ourselves, so where I can level up myself as well, of course. Now, the third thing you talk about in the book that successful people are great at is time. And they just really value their time. And I'm gonna put myself in a little position right here, because I'm gonna be honest, I've heard and read about this so many times, but I find it hard to actually grasp it. And it might be, well, I don't want to come up with any reasons for it, because it's probably a lot simpler, but I catch myself feeling like I'm not using my time well, and not really grasping the concept of, it's finite. Just use every second you have. Like, do you have any advice for making that switch? How did that come to you? Was there a certain situation, or did it evolve over time?
It evolved over the time, and probably your biggest problem why you can't utilize it at the moment is your youth. You see, at the moment, you've got in your head an abundance of time. I'm 55 years old. I know I'm on the other side of my chapters now. I'm coming towards my final chapter. I don't know when that's going to be. It could be tomorrow, could be in 20 years. But we know it's far closer statistically than it is for you. So for you at this moment in time, you don't regard it as any kind of value. And when I was your age, I was exactly the same. And I was always out partying and trying. And, I wasn't being so selfish with my time. But then I suddenly started making mistakes. And I realized that I wasn't using my time effectively. I was out at like 10 events, but only one of them was any good. And I'm like, well, why did I go to the other 9? And I hadn't challenged myself to come up with a good reason. So I was just going to everything, whether it was appropriate or inappropriate for me. So I think what you've got to ask yourself now, and I do this all the time now, and I teach my kids to do this. You've got to ask yourself, and I do this with my coaching clients, so any of my coaching clients that are listening to this are going to go, yeah, he does. You've got to ask yourself this question to everything. What's the point? And that's the most important. Hey, there's a party I'm going out to tonight. Okay, what's the point? Well, I want to be with friends, telling jokes, smile and be happy. Great, there's a point. Hey, it's a networking event. Okay, what's the point? Well, to get business out of it. Is that the event that is going to generate business for me? Are people in that event that can afford me? Are there people in there that have the problem that I am the solution to? Grill down, what's the point? Well, actually, no, it's a local business directory that for new businesses that don't have any money. Then there's no point in you being there. Okay? I could sell my product 1 million times a day if it was for free, but that wouldn't benefit me or anyone. So in which case, you've got to ask yourself, everything you do, what is the point? This morning, I wake up, I'm living up here in the hills in Los Angeles. I have this podcast with you. Okay? When I booked the podcast, literally, I asked myself, what's the point? Okay, I like the industry he's in. I like the sandpit of people that are into books. I've got a new book. Great. There's the point. But you've got to do that. And when you start asking yourself and valuing your time, you do more with it. And you suddenly start realizing it becomes like a muscle that you need to work. If you start becoming more selfish and questioning every time you do anything, what's the point? You get more out of every time that you actually use.
That's probably one of the most powerful questions that I've ever heard. And I'm gonna make sure to ask myself that on a regular basis when I wonder where's my time going. Because that's so, that puts so much clarity in your mind when you ask that. I love that. That's a great answer.
Good.
Thank you so much for that. So another great thing that I learned from the book that I wanted to ask you about is that you talk about raising your own standards and keeping up a high standards for yourself, and also expect high standards from people around you, because that's how you carry yourself. And how do you do that? Because let's say once I start having these high standards for myself now, and the people around me, they probably won't be used to it in some areas, So how do you respectfully tell them, I'm raising my standards right now, and I kind of expect you to do the same thing?
The good thing is you don't have to tell anybody. You see, people want good standards. They actually do. And they love standards. They love to go to a restaurant and be treated a certain way. They like to talk to someone in the street and be communicated with a certain way. They like to be helped in a certain way. They have those standards. And if they're friends of yours, they probably already have the standards that you are guiding already. But if you start heightening your standards, they'll go, oh, put it this way. Let's say, for argument's sake, you're at the pub with your mates, okay? And you're all there in like dirty t-shirts, dirty jeans, and you're looking a bit messy, okay? And then you're having a conversation, you're having a good night, everything's great, everyone looks the same, you're all messy, great. Then the following week you turn up, you've got a polo shirt on, or you've got a smooth hoodie on, and your jeans are clean, and maybe you've got some fresh sneakers, and all of you other guys are still messy. Now, you will get some people that will look at you and go, ooh, look at him, he's looking all nice. But here's the thing, the following week when you do it, one of your other friends will also dress up a little bit more. And then by the third, fourth, and fifth week, all of you are dressing up. Now what happens is you go, hang on a minute, we look too good for this bar, and you change the bar you go to. And all of a sudden you're going, whoa, look at us now. We look good, we're in a nice bar, but the drinks are more expensive. And then what starts happening, you start escalating your standard of life and your standard of acceptance. And now that reflects in your business and you start charging more. You see, there's a horrible line out there that says live within your means. No, okay? Live your life and then gain the income required for that life. And it will be generated from your standards. As your standards increase, so does what you'll accept, so does the business you will gain, which will give you the money to again increase your standards. And that's the other thing you've got to be aware of. Your standards is an ever-growing monster. Every time you do something, it's kind of, whoa, this is my new benchmark. This is the new level of acceptance.
That's so interesting, because it's basically about just doing it, and then other people will follow along.
They want to be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even have to say anything or explain yourself.
No, they will want to be part of that standard. Standards are a beautiful thing. It's like it's like laughter. You know, if you're in a pub and there's a bunch of people laughing in the corner, you can't help but smile because you want to be part of that joke. You're not, but you want to be. You wish you knew the punchline, you know? And that was someone else. Oh, I wish I had stepped out of my mold. And that'll be the thing. A lot of people will go, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to rock the boat. If the people around you are taking the piss out of your standards, they're not your friends.
And it's interesting that you also said there's this ripple effect. You know, it's one thing that you change how you dress up to the bar, and then one thing leads to the next, and eventually you make more money in your business and you dress better, and you know, you have better friends, or like eat better, live healthier, and all that kind of stuff. So that's so cool. Yeah. I want to ask you one last question that I ask everybody who comes on, since the show is called The Power of Books. I gotta ask it. So, what are your 2 to 3 most impactful books, or the books that you enjoyed the most?
Wow. Okay. All right. So, Ryan Holiday, Trust Me, I'm Lying. Great book. Anything by J. Abraham. I love J. Abraham's books. I read a lot of those. But then probably my greatest addiction was the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. I really liked reading the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Hornet's Nest. I loved those 3 books, and I know Lars has continued a series, and I've just started getting into those with Elizabeth Salander in there as well. So again, it's a fantastical book that has me guessing who did it and where it's going to go.
Interesting. I gotta check these out because I haven't read any of them yet.
Oh, they're brilliant. There were 3 books. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. There were 3 of those, and they were probably some of the best books I've read in a long time.
That's cool, because I actually was looking for a new fiction book to read, because every now and then I like to mix in some fiction, so I'm going to pick that one next. That's awesome. So for the people who want to follow you, check out more of your stuff, what's the best place for them to do that?
It's really easy. Steve D. Sims. All you got to do is go to Steve D. Sims absolutely anywhere. SteveDSims.com. If you want to find out about the book, goforstupid.com. Or just go on to any of my socials at Steve D. Sims, D for dashing and 1M in Sims. And probably I do most of my stuff, even though I try to do it all across, is within Instagram. So, just grab all the information from there.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time today and joining me. And I really enjoyed our conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And to all the listeners, have a great day and see you next time. Bye-bye. Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the show to never miss a new episode. Also check out our YouTube channel if you prefer video podcasts. Alright guys, I'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye bye.